all kinds of objects they need in the process of their ordinary being existence. Although, thanks to that invention, your favorites can now dye any object any color, yet what the lastingness of the existence of these objects becomes, just there lies their famous Bismarck's pet cat. Before that maleficent aniline existed, the objects produced by your favorites for their ordinary existence, such, for instance, as what are called carpets, pictures, and various articles of wool, wood, and skin, were dyed with simple vegetable dyes, which they had learned during centuries how to obtain. And these just enumerated objects would formerly last from 5 to 10 or even 15 of their centuries. But now, thanks merely to the aniline, or to dyes of other names into which this same aniline enters as the basis, there remains of the objects dyed with new colors, at most after about 30 years, only perhaps the memory of them. I must also say that the beings of the contemporary community Germany have been the cause not only that, thanks to this maleficent aniline, the productions of all the contemporary beings of this planet are quickly destroyed, but also that productions from ancient times have almost ceased to exist on that ill-fated planet. This latter occurred because, for various Hasnamussian purposes, and for their famous, as they call them, scientific aims, they collected the surviving ancient productions from all countries, and, not knowing how to preserve ancient objects, they only hastened their speedy destruction. But they used and still use those antiques they collected as models for cheap goods, which are everywhere known on that ill-fated planet by the name of ersatz. As for the third of the enumerated chemical substances they invented, namely cocaine, that chemical substance is not only also of great assistance to nature in more rapidly decomposing the planetary formations, in this instance their own planetary bodies, but this chemical means has an effect on the psyche of the contemporary beings of the planet Earth surprisingly similar to that which the famous organ Kundebuffer had on the psyche of their ancestors. When their ancestors had that invention in themselves of the great angel Luisos, then, thanks to this organ, they were always exactly in the same state as the contemporary beings are when they introduce into themselves this German invention called cocaine. I must warn you, my boy, that even if the action of that German invention is similar to the action of the famous organ Kundebuffer, it happened without any conscious intention on the part of the contemporary beings of the community Germany. They became colleagues of the great angel Luisos only by chance. At the present time, almost all the beings who become genuine representatives of contemporary civilization very meticulously, and with the greatest delight and tenderness, introduce into themselves this blessing of contemporary civilization, of course always to the glory, as our dear Mullah Nasruddin says, of the cloven-hoofed. The fourth of the enumerated chemical substances, namely atropine, is also everywhere there in great demand at the present time for a great variety of purposes, but its most common use is for a certain exceedingly strange purpose. It seems that, thanks to the same abnormally established conditions there of ordinary being existence, their organ of sight has acquired the property of regarding the faces of others as good and pleasing only when they have dark eyes. And when this chemical substance called atropine is in a certain way introduced into the eye of beings, the pupils become dilated and darker. And because of this, most of them introduce this atropine into their eyes in order that their faces may appear good and pleasing to others. And truly, my dear boy, those terrestrial beings who introduce this German blessing into their eyes do have very dark eyes until they are 45. I said until 45 because so far there has never been a case there when a being using this means could see and still continue its use after the age of 45. Alizarin, the fifth and last of the enumerated inventions, is also widespread everywhere, and that blessing of contemporary civilization is used there chiefly by what are called confectioners and other specialists who prepare for the other beings of that planet more tasty articles for their first food. These confectioners and other professionals there who prepare the said tasty articles for the first food of the rest of your favorites use this same German surefire composition, alizarin, of course unconsciously, for that purpose which has there already finally become the ideal for the whole of the contemporary civilization, which purpose is expressed in the language of our honored Mullah Nasruddin in the following words: "As long as everything looks fine and dandy to me, what does it matter if the grass doesn't grow?" Anyhow, my boy, those contemporary substitutes for the beings of ancient Greece are already now a great help to poor nature, though only in the process of decomposition, with all their practical attainments based on the sciences they have themselves invented. It is not for nothing that our dear Mullah Nasruddin has the following wise expression: "Better pull 10 hairs a day out of your mother's head than not help nature." Strictly speaking, the capacity to cook up fantastic sciences and to devise new methods for ordinary being existence there did not pass from the ancient Greeks to the beings of that contemporary Germany alone. The same capacity was perhaps no less also inherited by the beings of another contemporary community, also an independent one, and also in her turn enjoying dominion. That other contemporary community of your favorites is called England. There has even passed from ancient Greece to the beings of that second contemporary community, England, and directly to them alone, one of their most maleficent inventions, which the beings of that contemporary community have most thoroughly adopted and now actualize in practice. This particularly maleficent invention of theirs, the ancient Greeks called diaphoron, and the contemporary beings call sport. About this contemporary sport there, I shall explain to you in as much detail as possible at the end of my tale. But you must meanwhile know that though the beings of that community, England, also now invent large quantities of the various new objects required by your favorites in the process of their ordinary being existence, nevertheless they do not invent chemical substances like the beings of the contemporary community Germany. No. They invent chiefly what are called metalwares. Especially in recent times, they have become expert in inventing and in distributing to the beings existing over the whole of the surface of your planet vast quantities of every kind of metalwares, called their locks, razors, mousetraps, revolvers, scythes, machine guns, saucepans,